Good day, dear colleagues. It's a great opportunity that we can have this kind of chance to share our experience. And my name is Iglikova Alma Mirzashina. I'm an English teacher at Nazarbayev Intellectual School in Almaty. And today I will present one of the ways of conducting the lesson on the topic carbon dating in 12th grades. So, let's start. As I mentioned before, this is a lesson of 12th grade and content with language is carbon dating. It has very close cross-curricular links with chemistry and math. And there you see following objectives like C6, organize and present information clearly to others. S1, use formal and informal language registers and talk on a range of familiar and unfamiliar general and curricular topics. And W2, use a range of vocabulary which moves beyond a high-frequency vocabulary, which is appropriate to topic of genre and which is spelled accurately. Based on these objectives, we have created success criteria. So, success criteria is divided into 3 levels, like all, most, and some, because it is a common thing that in most cases our students have different abilities and skills, so that is why in planning we need to take into consideration their capacity. So you see the following success criteria. All learners will be able to understand and use active vocabulary in talk, to define atomic structure of carbon and its isotopes. Most learners will be able to explain how carbon be applied to find out information about people, also to solve problems and explain its solution clearly to others. And some learners will be able to evaluate the importance of carbon appliance of science and predict its future perspectives. Also here, they should be able to synthesize materials to find out the maximum period of carbon dating use. Based on these success criteria, we can see the procedure of the lesson. Procedure of the lesson is necessary thing in order not to make your students confused about the lesson's flow. Here they see that first of all we will give the notion of the topic carbon dating. There, teacher gives active vocabulary that they can use throughout the lesson, also definition of the word carbon dating. The second step is to know structure, atomic structure of carbon, also isotopes of carbon. Of course, it will be great support for those students who will find it difficult to understand. And the third step is applied science. Here, we will analyze how carbon dating works, and also our students will learn how to solve problems based on carbon dating. Of course, and the last step is practical work, in order to see if our students understand this topic well and comprehend everything in details. They see the direction back. Feedback. Of course, after each step, teacher should understand what was difficult for students and what was caught by them. So feedback helps to make or to find the right way of a lesson further. Now here you see lesson itself. This slide is shown for students. First of all, teacher asks the question, what does CD stand for? Of course, you need to give the chance to your students elicit their ideas for CD. Their ideas can be different, like here, calendar day, Canadian dollar, cold drinks, concept definition, critical design, and etc. And then after, if our students find it difficult to find out some new words for CD, teacher can help and give his own collocations. After showing this slide, teacher can ask that students need to match the content of one circle with the whole picture that they see on the board. And as a tip, teacher can give the protons and neutrons. After counting the number of protons, students understand that there are 6 protons and 8 neutrons, and what content of the circle is related to chemistry. Of course, carbon dating. So the topic of the lesson will be defined by students themselves. So carbon dating is the topic of today's lesson. As a differentiation for students who need support, the meaning of the words like carbon and dating, they are given separately. They can understand the meaning of the word carbon and the meaning of the word dating. Teacher gives them some time to look through them. After, students will have the chance to make up their own definition based on these elements of these words. For example, carbon. Carbon is a chemical element. Also, there is a collocation like carbon dioxide. The next is carbon copy. You can highlight this expression because it can be used like phraseology to be the exact copy of something. And adjective, carbonless, when something is without carbon. And the next meaning of the word dating, to have or bear date, to belong to a particular period, have its origin, to go out socially on dates. In most cases, our students know what is dating, to go out with your girlfriend or boyfriend, or to reckon from some point in time. After full understanding of these words' meaning separately, they need to combine their understanding in general idea and should present their own definitions. After presenting or after asking several students of their own definitions, teacher can give his own. Like, carbon dating is a method used to find the age of some kind of old things like fossils and minerals that have been around for many centuries. So, in order to understand carbon dating process in details, our students should be able to imagine atomic structure of carbon, so it gives them clear understanding of this topic. So, what carbon is? So, presenting them the periodic table of the elements, you can ask your students to give the description of carbon themselves. Of course, looking at this very periodic table, they can define that carbon is a chemical element. It is sixth element in the periodic table of the elements. C stands for carbon. It's a symbol of the word carbon. 6, it is atomic number of carbon. 12 is atomic mass of carbon. These answers should be based on background knowledge of our students according to chemistry. After defining that carbon is also non-metal, because it's given in purple, we can move to the next step. For our students, we need to explain the property of carbon, or also atomic structure of this element. So, in this very slide, especially, it will be very good for visuals, for those students who can easily memorize information seeing its image. So, on this slide, teacher can ask them the amount of protons and neutrons that they see. They see 6 protons and 6 neutrons. So also teacher can ask, what does plus mean? Of course, most of the students will be able to answer that it's a charge. So the charge of proton is positive. And what is the charge of neutron? Of course, you can guess that it is neutral or it doesn't have charge. So there are 6 protons and 6 neutrons. Also, teacher can ask how many electrons each atom has. And according to their knowledge, they can explain that there are 6 electrons because the number of electrons, they are equal to the number of protons. Electrons are negatively charged particles. So there, they clearly see the atomic structure of the element like C12. How to know the property of C12? So C, as we have mentioned, it is a symbol of carbon. So its atomic mass and atomic number is given in front of the letter C. Atomic mass is given in superscript and the atomic number is given as a subscript. So any kind of elements can be read using this information. So protons and neutrons coming together, they form the nucleus. So also electrons, they move or go around the atom not the atom, but go around the nucleus, and they spin. In this case, your students will be able to get active vocabulary that they are going to use further. After explanation of atomic structure of carbon, of course, we need to move to the second notion, isotopes. So your students are presented to 3 elements, C12, C13, C14, and teacher should pay students attention to atomic number, that all of these elements' atomic numbers are equal. It's 6. But the atomic mass of these 3 elements, they are different, like 12, 13, and 14. But all these elements have the symbol C, which means it's carbon. So here, teacher can explain that the difference between neutrons explain their property. So elements C12 and C13, they are stable, and element C14 is unstable or radioactive. Unstable elements atom can be destroyed or can decay. Based on this information, you can ask your students to give the definition of isotopes. Again, most of our students should know it according to the curriculum of chemistry. So, isotope, what is that? Isotopes are atoms that have the same atomic number but different mass numbers. Mass number we get from sums of atomic number or protons and neutrons. So if there is atomic mass 14 and its atomic number is 6, they can easily calculate that this element has about 8 neutrons. So after understanding the notion isotope, we need to go further. How can we use this chemical element C14 or isotope of carbon C14 in science? Students are always taught to think critically, so they should elicit ideas how they can determine the age of the following. They say the pack of juice, a book, a tree, and a man. Teacher can ask how to determine their age. After some minutes discussion, your students will guess that the date, according to the date of production, they can know the age in inverted commas of pack of juice. So they can know the age of book according to the published date. Also, they cut the trunk of a tree and count the rings. And if you want to know the age of a person, just ask his ID card. These are the simple ways of determining the age. And next, the question appears with the skull. How old is the skull? Of course, your students should discuss in the whole groups how to define the age of the given skull. Here, after a little bit discussion, they can suggest their ideas. It will be great if they mention the following ideas, but if they cannot, teacher supports them. For example, the age of the skull can be found by artifacts around the skull, because the artifacts can be made of silver, bronze, and etc. So that is why they can determine the age of the skull. The next is, students can say about the sedimentary beds where the skull was found. Because if the skull is found very close to the surface of the ground, it means that the skull is new. It refers to the 20th or 19th century. But if it is deep in the sedimentary beds, in this case, the skull is very old. Also, if there is a tombstone, they can just look at the date of death. But if you do not have any artifacts, or maybe the skull was not found in the sedimentary levels, or if there is any tombstone, how our students define the age of this skull? That's a question. In this case, our students should elicit the ideas like they use carbon dating. Yes, we use carbon dating, but how carbon dating works? And now, students are instructed to watch the video, they should concentrate on the information that will be given in the video, because later they will use this information in the description of the picture. Now, video itself.
How do we know how old something is? For people, we'd ask to see their birth certificate. For trees, we'd count the rings. But how do we know how old a fossil is? Fossils have their own internal clock. Scientists can read it by looking at the ratio of two different types of carbon atoms. Of course, every living thing is made of carbon. Plants grab carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and use it to form complex organic molecules. Animals get their carbon by eating these plants. But there's more than one form of carbon. Most carbon atoms have 6 protons and 6 neutrons. We call this carbon-12. High up in the atmosphere, sometimes cosmic rays hit nitrogen atoms. This creates carbon with 6 protons and 8 neutrons. We call this carbon-14. Carbon-12 and carbon-14 behave alike, but carbon-14 has one unique and important attribute. It's unstable. So once an animal dies, the carbon-14 in its body will start to go away. Every 5,730 years on average, about half of the carbon-14 atoms will decay into nitrogen. This is its half-life. After one half-life, the animal will have about half the amount of carbon-14 it started with. After another half-life, it will have about a quarter. And after another half-life, it will have about an eighth. By contrast, the amount of carbon-12 it has in its body will stay the same. By measuring the ratio of carbon-14 to carbon-12, we can measure how many thousands of years have passed since the animal died. Carbon dating works for fossils up to about 60,000 years old. For older fossils, scientists use unstable elements that have much longer half-lives. For Scientific American's Instant Egghead, I'm Michael Moyer.
So, students have watched video. Relying on their background information of chemistry, also on the watched video, they need to describe the following picture. The description of this picture will give them clear understanding of the existence of C14 in the atmosphere. So, in this case, the students can work in pairs. Teacher drifts in order to analyze who understood the video well, who didn't. And after all, it should be described like this. So, cosmic ray protons blast a nuclei in the upper atmosphere, producing neutrons. It starts to bombard nitrogen, and everyone knows that there are 78% of nitrogen in the atmosphere. The reaction is given on this slide. In this reaction, there is a new isotope of nitrogen appears with atomic mass 15 with a number of protons 7. After C14 appears in the atmosphere, of course, the one proton with atomic mass 1 and of course with one proton in itself should be released. After appearance of C14 in the atmosphere, how it works further. Of course, a lot of plants and trees, they absorb CO2 or carbon dioxide, and also they get C14 into their bodies. After, any kind of animals like herbivores eat these grass and plants and get C14 into their body. But how do carnivores get this atom? Of course, they get C14 eating herbivores. It's just a law of predators and prey. As a human being who eats either animals or grass and plants, they get C14 also into their bodies. But after living organism dies, the amount of C14 in their body before, when they are alive, it should be stable, but after the death, it starts to reduce. There, carbon-14, that element that we are talking about, starts to decay. It decays with a half-life of about 5,730 years by the emission of an electron. This changes the atomic number of the nucleus to 7, producing a nucleus of nitrogen-14. And equilibrium with the atmosphere, a gram of carbon shows an activity of about 15 decays per minute. From the known half-life of carbon-14 and the number of carbon atoms in a gram of carbon, you can calculate the number of radioactive decays. So our students know how C14 appears in the atmosphere, how living organisms get them into their body, and how this atom decays. And the main thing that they need to pay attention that in 5,730 years, the half of atoms of C14 will decay. Based on this knowledge, the students will be given the task, and it is very closely integrated with math. There is given a problem. Carbon dating can be used to find the approximate age of objects by using the amount of carbon-14 present in the sample. The half-life of carbon is 5,730 years old. The preserved remains of body with a mass of 60 kilograms was found to contain 12.5 grams of carbon-14. Records show that the average human with a mass of 60 kilograms should have around 100 grams of carbon-14 present in their body. So there are two questions. How many half-lives passed since the person died? And how old is that body? There is a solution that is presented for you, but students should solve these tasks themselves based on the knowledge of physics. There is given the mass of atoms of carbon-14 that is left, it's equal to 12.5 grams. And mass that is given at the beginning when a living organism was alive, it's 100 grams. And time, or period of time, when the half of atoms decay, it's 5,730 years. So our students should find number of half-lives, second, how old the body is. There is solution. In the solution, we see that remained mass is equal the original mass times 1/2 to the n. Here, second to n is equal to original mass over remained one. Then there is an easy way to plug in all the given. So we get the result that number of half-lives is 3 and the body's age is 17,190 years. Here I want to say most of our students will be able to solve this problem relied on their knowledge of physics. But you can ask some of them as a differentiation for students who are very strong to solve this task using differential equation. Because in math, the 12th grade students now have this program, differential equation. They will solve these tasks themselves, and you can ask the help of math teacher in order to check their solution. For example, the solution of this task based on differential equation. The first is given differential equation which describes carbon dating process. We are manipulating that differential equation and solve it using integrals. We need to take the integral of dm over m and integral of k dt. The integral of dm over m is logarithm of absolute value of mass, which is equal to integral of kt plus c. After simplifying exponential, we get formula where mass is equal c1 times e to kt. That is it. Then students find c1. Next step is to define k, constant. As the last step, students again plug in everything that is given or they found out into the formula. Into the formula that is given here, where mass is equal to c1 times e to kt. Also, they can find that 3 half-lives passed. Also, the age of that dead body is 17,190 years old. After checking this differential equation, we need to use all our knowledge that we have taken throughout the whole lesson in practice. How it works. Practical work's name is Masters and Novices. For students who do not understand the meaning of the novices, teacher can give the synonym of it. It's like inexperienced person, the person who has just started doing something professionally. So, it's up to the number of students in your class. If there are 10 students, you can make 5 masters and 5 novices. If there are 8 students, you can point 4 masters and 4 novices, as I have done. So, you need to give the positions for your students. They are Master of Linguists, Master of Chemistry, Master of Physics, and Master of Mathematics. Master of Linguistic, she or he is responsible for different definitions, like what carbon is, what isotope is, and what carbon dating is. Master of Chemistry, he will be responsible for these kind of notions like atomic structure of carbon, atomic structure of isotopes, and the reaction how C14 appears in the atmosphere. Master of Physics, that person will be responsible for the whole process of decaying. Also, if they know that decaying of C14 refers to beta decay, they can explain it also. It will be encouraged by the teacher. And Master of Mathematics, that person should be very good at math, and he will be able to solve the tasks based on a simple equation or differential equation for those students who can struggle with this task. Then novices will be appointed. Novices, these are students who need support. And this support can be taken from masters as well and teacher as well. So as you see here, teacher drifts during the whole activity. First of all novices should be given success criteria. This is the masters, ML, Master of Linguistics, MC stands for Master of Chemistry, MPH is for Master of Physics, and MM, Master of Mathematics. They need to evaluate the clarity of speech of a master, ability of explanation of a master again, and correct use of vocabulary. Vocabulary was given throughout the whole lesson. Maximum point is 5. After working with each master, they need to change their positions. Novice of Master of Linguistics will go to Master of Chemistry. The novice of Master of Chemistry will go to Master of Physics. In this case, all your novices will go through all these masters, and they can have the big opportunity to fill the gaps that they had during the lesson. Now you can watch how this activity works. It was planned on my lesson, the video itself.
So, guys, listen to me very attentively. Yes, what you are going to do right now. So you have understood the notion, the definition of carbon dating. Also, you have studied the atomic structure, and also you know how to use it, yes, in science, how to apply it in science. And now you are going to do practical work, which is called masters and novices. So, masters, these are people who will explain all the questions concerning what kind of master you are. And novices, you are going to ask some questions in order to understand it deeper. Yeah? So for novices, I will give out the papers, success criteria, where you are going to make notes. How your master answered your questions. How he or she was able to explain this question well. So now, I will point masters. For example, Master of Linguistics, Ulbikia, please, you're welcome. Master of Chemistry is Kumbad. Master of Physics, Abri Mansur. And Master of Mathematics is Aishwag. And the rest of the class, you are novices. Please take your own places in front of your masters. Please, quicker. Quicker. And now, all masters will have about 1 or 1.5 minutes to explain to their novices. When I clap my hands, you need to swap in clockwise. Is it clear? If it is clear, now please just take your cards, success criteria for novices. And now please, you can start. So, start!
6 months, it gives us the neutral stationary carbon. But we have things like isotopes. Isotopes is at first, for example, we can take carbon 6 and 12. 12 is the atomic mass, and also 6 and 13. Also we can take 6 and 14. For example, the most rarest isotope in nature is 6 and 14. We can get it by from oxygen. For example, in our oxygen, there are 78% of nitrogen, and we can get. Do you know that atomic number of nitrogen is 7 and its mass is 40? And also we can get one neutron, and it gives us C14, 6. The one electron goes to 16, and it gives us proton is hydrogen. And because of this, we can get C14 isotope. It is used in the atomic bodies because all of the same elements or same. For example, has around constantly number of atoms of C14.
So the time is up. Now we swap, guys. In clockwise.
So how we get C14 to our organism? First of all, the plants absorb carbon dioxide, and by that carbon dioxide they get also C14, and that plant already consists of C14, and if some animal eat that plant, it also
In this case, you should know one term, how far is the period of time that every atom in your body need to be decayed. So, in this case, we have 3 half-life. To calculate the age, we should multiply this 3 to half-life. So, we can bring this number. So, it's the age of our body.
Thank you very much. Now, guys, swap.
So, in the watched videos, you see that teacher drifts and the students work in groups, so that is why you can encourage them to work in groups and to improve their collaboration skills, collaborative skills. So also they can support and help each other, yes, answering the questions that novices had. Of course, it has a lot of beneficials, so that is why this kind of activity, when our students can easily go in the classroom and they can ask any kind of question or problems that they had from their classmates, we encourage them to learn more. So that is why these kind of activities should be planned a lot. And now, after watching this video, teacher gets all success criteria from novices. So that is why after the lesson, Teacher can evaluate each master's skills of presentation, the speech, also the ability to explain something. On the second lesson, if you have time, you can change the positions of masters with novices. In this case, novices will explain everything that they have learned from the previous lesson. Of course, it will be very helpful to fix the knowledge that was taken from the lesson. After it, at the end of the lesson, students should give feedback. For feedback, teacher gives out the papers where you can see the smile, which is equal to head. Head is something that made our students think. The next is back. Back is something that you can take with you away and also remember forever. And there is a given bean. Bean symbolizes something that your students found not interesting and not useful for them. And there is a heart. Heart means that this point of the lesson touched them deeply. And they should be given the time to fill these papers, and after, teacher can ask some of the students to sound out or loud what they thought about this. It gives very good feedback for student in order to improve his lessons further on the next lesson. If, for example, some of the moments of your lesson was said as being like something that was not interesting or not useful for them, in planning the further lessons, you will avoid doing these activities. And as a last step, there is given a quotation of Walt Disney. It's kind of fun to do the impossible. When our students understand that something is impossible to do, they will be motivated to do it, to struggle with that topic, and to overcome some problems. If they do not find it impossible, something that can be easily solved, they can lose their motivation. So that is why I thought that this lesson was impossible to be conducted, like it was integrated with math, physics and chemistry. But we could find the solution of how to conduct this lesson thanks to the following people, like Abdrahmanova Mara Kabudinna, chemistry teacher, Shakamanova Amina Baevna, she's English teacher, Aytmuhammed Daurin, math teacher, and Tulikulov Ablehan, assistant of English. They helped me a lot in organizing this lesson. Thank you very much.